Turks, this is Nomi Konst. We are here in Atlanta, live for the DNC vote. Today, the Democratic Party, which has been under disarray, has been going through a lot of existential crises in the last couple of years. Today, they vote on the new leadership. This is everybody from the chairman to the treasurer. There are going to be several ballots today for each of the races, most likely, and by hopefully the end of the evening tonight, the Democratic Party will know who is leading its party. So I'm going to explain some of the process to you because we're going to be streaming this all day today as the votes come in. The first vote will start today at 10 a.m. Eastern. So that's in half an hour, the first vote will take place. And that is for national chair. They are starting with national chair. Now, while there are still several people in the race, you have Congressman Keith Ellison, Secretary Tom Perez, Pete Buttigieg from Mayor of South Bend, Indiana, Sally Boynton Brown, Executive Director of the Idaho Democratic Party, who am I missing? Sam Ronan, and Pete Pekorski, and Jamu Green, of course. Those are the remaining people in the race. You had two candidates that were vying for sort of the third place, who dropped out of the race this week. That is South Carolina Democratic Chairman, the Democratic Party, Jamie Harrison, and he endorsed Tom Perez. And of course, New Hampshire Democratic Party Chairman, Ray Buckley, who endorsed Keith Ellison. So there has been a lot of vote whipping in the past couple of days. What does that mean? Well, there are roughly 450 DNC members who have been elected over the past couple of years, as recently as a week ago in North Carolina, a week and a half ago in North Carolina. And these DNC members, they represent everything from union members and workers and young people to lobbyists and people who have contracts with the DNC. Now, it's no surprise, because I've been covering this extensively for the past 3 months, that my beat has been about money and politics. What I realized very early on in this race was that DNC members cared about one thing in particular, and that was winning back local races. These are people who come from their communities, who have been frustrated that their state parties lack the resources and the support needed to recruit candidates, train candidates, organize, and engage their communities. And they've seen that the 50-state strategy from a decade ago with Howard Dean is no longer the strategy, and they've all asked for that to come back. As the debate has gone on, it's become very clear, partly because you had New Hampshire Chairman Ray Buckley explain, as an executive committee member, as somebody who's been in the leadership of the DNC for over a decade, he explained that the Democratic Party does not release its budget to executive committee members, so nobody knows where the money is going. The Democratic Party has indeed raised more money than ever in the past 8 years under President Obama, former President Obama. The question is, where was that money going? So I spent some time digging through FEC filings, it's the Federal Election Commission, to figure out where that money was being spent. And it indeed has gone to, at least in the last couple of years, major contracts. Those are ad buys for presidential races, for off years, and other types of consulting. In total, between super PACs that are affiliated with the presidential candidates, there is a lot of overlap between the DNC, Hillary for America's presidential run, and this is during the primary as well, and of course these super PACs. Overall, over $1 billion, yes, $1 billion, over $1 billion was spent on the largest contractors. Now within the DNC, it's somewhere around a couple $100 million, like $400 million. So what does that mean? Well, some of these people who work at these firms are actually DNC members voting today. So they're voting for, possibly voting for, their own interests. Now, as I've done the research and asked all of the candidates the same questions, there were a couple of candidates who are not against banning these conflicts of interest. Of those remaining in the race, only one is against banning those conflicts of interest, and that is Secretary Tom Perez. Notably, some of these consultants have actually been raising money for Tom Perez. They have put their names on fundraising documents and invites to fundraising events. They've co-hosted events and actually have been making phone calls on behalf of Secretary Perez. Last night I had several verification from DNC members that Valerie Jarrett of the Obama administration is making calls on behalf of Secretary Perez. Now, Keith Ellison has he's got his support as well. He has a lot of union leaders. He has some establishment. Senator Schumer, the president of the AFT, Randy Weingarten, is supporting Keith Ellison. There are several congresspeople, Representative Lee, Mayor de Blasio turned out last night supporting Keith Ellison. So this is an evolution right now in the Democratic Party. I remember several months ago I had explained that the DNC is not one giant monolith that believes in the same things. It's not. It's a diverse community. You have progressives in the DNC who chose to vote for Hillary Clinton, probably for a lot of reasons. Some of it had to do with where they worked, what their duties were as people in their Democratic Party, but they were progressive. And then there are people who are not progressive, people who believe in centrist politics, which I think to me is code for they want to keep the Democratic Party's budget loaded so they can make money. That's what the divide is about right now. Now, whether or not all the DNC members understand what's at stake here and who the candidates represent is another question. It's very tight. I know right now there are a lot of whip counts being floated around. I know there are a lot of members who are not being clear about who they're supporting. For instance, I was just speaking to a member who said some members are saying they support a candidate, but when asked whether they'll vote for the candidate, they won't. So it's a tricky area here to navigate. This is how the ballot process works. I'm going to explain it to you. The first vote is for national chair. On the first ballot, there's going to be a decision in the room. They're meeting right now to decide whether or not the members will be voting by paper ballot as a collective or an electronic ballot with a clicker. They're all learning how to use the clickers right now. If somebody does not want to use the electronic vote, they can use a paper ballot. And they have 2 minutes to vote. They can change their vote as many times as possible during those 2 minutes until the time is up. And then, if no candidate reaches 225 votes, which is over half of the DNC vote as a collective, then they go to the second ballot, and then they vote again. And then at that point, if nobody has reached over half of the votes, then the vote getters, the lowest votes, drop off of the ballot, the two lowest vote getters, and then they go to the third ballot. And when somebody drops off or resigns, they have the opportunity to give a 30-second speech. All right, teams of 2 count the ballots in the boiler room. There are members of each campaign observing. Each campaign receives a tally copy, and then that's when the interim chair, Donna Brazile, announces who wins, and then they bring out the chair. Donna Brazile will be overseeing these elections just because she's been handling the elections and understands them the most. But of course, there are people from both sides, or all sides of the campaigns, going to be there to watch the vote counting process. If an electronic vote is enacted instead, electronic clickers will be handed out to each member with a screen displaying the candidates' names and their tally. Members can change their vote as many times as they want, up until the electronic voting period has closed. The boiler room will also pull every proxy vote. So for those DNC members who will not be there today, who cannot make it, they have proxy members who have been instructed specifically how they're supposed to vote through the process. So, for instance, if somebody wants to support Sally Boynton Brown on the first ballot, but she doesn't make it past the first ballot, who does that person vote for the second ballot? The DNC member has instructed their proxies on these specific aspects of the race. In the event that a proxy has not been voted with the member's wishes, the vote will change to reflect what that member's wishes were. So there have been strict instructions. If there is a winner on the first ballot, the winner will be declared. If winner is declared on the first ballot for chair, the new chair will make a statement, but interim chair Brazile will oversee the remaining votes. If no winner on the first ballot, there's a second ballot with all the remaining names. If no winner on the second and third, the lowest vote getter keeps going off. If the candidate withdraws after a ballot, they will make a 30-second statement to members, and that goes on. So after the chair candidate race, which is the first vote, is the treasurer race. After that, same process. After that is the secretary race, and then the national finance chair race, which is, there's only one candidate, and that's Henry Munoz, who has been the national finance chair for the past several years, and he just endorsed Secretary Tom Perez. Then the fifth vote is the vice chair for civic engagement, and that's a little complicated because it's going to get tricky. I'm going to have to explain it when we're in that room, because the rules could change as we're there, or the process could change as we're there. If there's somebody that is not kept, they have a quota, so you have to have equal representation. So whoever is left out will move to the second race, which is the at-large vice chair race, and that's the sixth vote of the day. This is going to be a long day. So I encourage you all to tune in to the Young Turks. Keep watching us. We are waiting to go back upstairs into the room. Right now they're training members. We're downstairs. As we walk up the stairs, I'm going to take you on a little tour so you can see what is going on as you enter the room, because members are still being whipped, lobbied. I can say there were a lot of deals made in the past several hours. There have been a lot of last-minute favors asked of different, well-known figures. I've reported on my Twitter yesterday that DNC members were receiving letters on behalf of pro-Israel Zionist members. They're not members of the DNC, leaders who were smearing Representative Keith Ellison for being anti-Semitic. I was on CNN last night with Alan Dershowitz, and we got into a debate over this. Let me be clear. This might affect a couple of votes in some states, and that actually might make a difference. They targeted California, they targeted New Jersey, they targeted New York, and they targeted Florida. There might be a few more states like Michigan. That might make a difference with a few votes. But this race is really about continuing to have a centralized DNC, which allocates all of their money towards the top into these major consulting contracts of hundreds of millions of dollars, or whether they should have a decentralized DNC and have, regional DNC headquarters and state parties that are strong, leave no district, no community, no county behind. I've heard that over and over, but that is a budget question. That is a question over where they're prioritizing their needs. And I'm going to leave you with one last thought, because I only care about the money in this race, because I really truly believe that follow the money and you can figure out what an organization does, because the money reflects where their priorities are. The majority of the money spent in the DNC is going to some very large consulting firms that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. And some of those people who are employed by these firms, or partners or founders in these firms, are DNC members, are in executive positions. They go on TV and do not disclose that they have these conflicts of interests. And some of the members don't even know that there are conflicts of interest within the party. So my question is, to DNC members who might be watching this right now, who are in the room watching this, are those hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts worth reproductive rights, DACA, undocumented being round up by ICE? Is it worth sexism? Is it worth losing states' rights? Is it worth privatizing education at the national level to the local level? Is it worth having absolutely no leadership at the state level? Because it's really hard to go downhill from here, as the Democratic Party is at its lowest point since 1920 with more money in the bank. The DNC has become a fundraising factory, not a factory of ideas, innovation, leadership, creativity. There's no reason why in 2017 Democrats should not be winning everywhere. We know, based on polling, that the ideas of Republicans do not resonate with Americans, the majority of Americans. Yet they have exploited the weakness of the Democratic Party, and they've used it to their advantage. And it's not that the Democratic Party took its eye off the ball. It's that the Democratic Party gave extraordinary power to a group of individuals who are making money off of the lives of American people. So I leave you with that note. What is more important? Hundreds of millions of dollars in consulting contracts, or winning state legislatures back and protecting our rights as individuals?